This is the last part of the video, and we will be looking at how the two networks, the two subnets, are interconnected, and what can we potentially do in order to enable network interaction or disable it within two subnets in a single VPC. If I visualize it, what we are trying to do, I will say that we have VPC. So this is like our own CIDR block where we reserved this this IP address in AWS, which is internal, of course. So we reserve this block, and inside this VPC, we have created a subnet, which looks like this. So it is a subnet, and it has a IP range, this block. So this is like a subset of this, and this is a subnet, right? Now what we are doing is that this VPC had no connection with the internet before, but we have enabled a true info connection by adding an internet gateway. Okay, so we added an internet gateway again. Now we have deployed an EC2 instance within the subnet. So this is EC2. And then it is there is a router in place, of course, right? So there is a router which this is managed by AWS. This is not something that we have configured, but this is the router where we are adding the routes, right? So we are adding different routes, and there's a router in place. And this EC2 instance is now able to talk to the internet through the internet gateway, and all the traffic can reach to this EC2 instance. Okay. We also have a layer here, which is for NACL. So if we block or allow traffic here, it affects what reaches to EC2 instance and what doesn't reach to EC2 instance. And similarly, in the EC2 instance here around, we have something called security groups, which again allows what traffic can go through the EC2 instance. So this is a very dirty diagram of what we are trying to do. But for now, I hope this clarifies what we try to do till now. What we're doing next is create a subnet. And this one would be a private subnet. And we'll create in this manner that I am able to talk to this, and this is able to talk to this. So let us see, can a machine in this public subnet and the other subnet, can they talk to each other, right? And if they are talking, then how is that happening? So let's try that thing out. Let's try to figure that thing out. Okay, so getting back to our VPC, let's go to the subnets very first, and we will create another subnet, which is in the same VPC, and the subnet would be private this time. And the CIDR block, it is in a different availability zone because, yeah, that's good practices. You just pick this one. Okay, this looks good. So you pick this one, and then you just create a subnet. So it created a subnet, and the subnet, again, if you go to the route table, you'll see that it is not exposed to the internet. Okay, and the network ACLs are blah. Oh, the network ACL, we added this to it, this is showing up. But other than that, great. Okay, so now let us get rid of this rule because I will just be showing how we are able to interact. So in order to do that, I would want to remove that deny permission here because I would just be pinging it and not doing anything super fancy. Okay, so now we have this other subnet, and this is a private one. What we will be doing is launch an EC2 instance in this subnet. So I'll create another EC2 instance, and I would pick our VPC and I'll launch it in private. Okay, and once that is done, you see that there is a subnet setting which says that whether you want to enable or disable the public IP assignment. And we'll just see in a while what that means. But for now, this is good enough. Okay, so let's just launch it. So we have this. Also know that there is just one key pair, which allows you to log in wherever you want, which is pretty insane. But now this instance is again launching and it's working and everything is great. Now you see that this is not having a public IP, but it is having a private IP, right? And we also just saw that subnet settings apparently decide whether they should be having an IP, public IP assignment or not. So let's just quickly go here and see where do we enable that? See, auto assigning of IPv6 or auto assigning of IPv4 address? No. So we do not assign public IPs automatically. And that also makes sense because you only have a reserved set of public IPs which AWS account can assign to your instances. And most of the instances need to be private. So because it's all backend and not actually exposed to the internet. So it makes sense to not assign public IPs automatically, right? So what do we have now? We have another EC2 instance, which is launched in a private subnet, and it is not having a public IP, but it is having a private IP. So what we'll try to do is go to the instances. One of them is public, one of them is private. I'll go to the public instance and I will log in here. So we just logged in, right? In the terminal. I showed you that we were able to log in. So see that I'm able to log in here and I'm inside the public, the EC2, which is in the public subnet. So what I'll try to do is from here, I'll try to ping the other instance, which is not exposed, but it is in the same VPC, not in the same subnet, but in the same VPC, right? So if I go here, I can see that the private IP address is this. So let me try to ping this. And you'll see that we are not able to ping it, but one reason why that might be happening is because the security group which is attached is not allowing ping. So let me edit this real quick because we would want to enable ping in order to ping. So, okay, and who all? So all the cyber block, all this is not needed, but still anywhere in IPv4 can ping it because our IP will also be here. If you want to narrow it down, you can just assign it the cyber block of your subnet, and that should work fine as well. But let's just save it. And now the security group which is attached to this is changed. So you should be able to ideally ping it, but let me see what happens there. Oh, damn, wow. So it's already pinging. So you'll see that from within this IP, I'm able to ping this IP, right? And this is a private one. Though they are in different subnets and though they are having their own security groups, NACLs and whatnot, they're still able to ping, right? So subnets do not logically separate the ability to interconnect. And the reason why this might be happening as well is because we have a route which enables this, right? So let's try to play around with that. Let us go to the AWS and you'll see that in the subnets, the two subnets that we have, the private and the public one in the subnets, you'll see that it is attached to a route table, which is this. And you can actually edit route table association. Now it allows all the local traffic, right? So if a destination is anywhere in this, it goes to something called local. And what is this local exactly? So this is the routing which is provided by Amazon itself, by AWS itself, and it enables you to interact within the VPC. Now, can I actually block the traffic from the other subnet? Like, can I do that? That I do not allow traffic from the first subnet to enter this subnet? Now, if you think about it, you should be able to do that using network ACL. So currently, this ACL is attached, which allows everything. If I edit a network ACL, this is the default one which is attached, right? So let me try and create a network ACL, which is a little bit limited. So NACL for midnight hacks, private subnet, and the VPC is here, and you can just create this network ACL. And if you open it up, you can edit the rules that all the traffic. So by default, all traffic is denied, but you can add the rule that all the traffic from now the source can be the subnet. So the one that is public, right? The source can be that one. So, sorry. We'll say that all the traffic coming from this is denied. Okay, and I'll just check that this is the subnet 10.0.1.0/28. Yeah, this is subnet. So I've denied all the traffic coming from this subnet using NACL, and I've attached it to my private subnet. So now let's do that again. Let's try to ping again. Damn, it's still working. Okay, so once I have that network access control list, what I'll do is I'll attach it with my private subnet. So if you go to the private subnet and you see that the network access control list here, you're seeing that it's using the default one. So we just change the association to the private one and we save it. Now, when we save it, it should not allow the ping from one subnet to another. So let's try to ping the machine again. So I'll ping again. And now you'll see that it's not going anywhere. It will just expire after some time because it will give you a timeout because the network access layer is not allowing it now anymore. So this is how you actually separated two subnets. I mean, although we do not always need to do it, if subnets are interacting, it is great, but you can still have some network boundaries on what can be accessed and what cannot be accessed, right? Even within a VPC, because within a VPC, everything will be accessible by default. And if you want to separate the subnets, that if you don't want them to talk to each other, you can do that using NACL. So it is one of the ways in which you can do that. The other way can also be that you block it on the security group level itself. Based on whatever your requirement is, you can configure it accordingly. So that is what it was. Now let us bring the association back to our default one because we do not really need this right now.